I sat at my desk, the afternoon light casting long shadows across the scattered photographs. My fingers traced the edge of a particularly worn image. Emma and me at our college graduation, her wild red hair catching the sunlight as she jumped into my arms. The memory hit me with startling clarity. The weight of her against my chest, the sound of her laughter, the way her graduation cap flew off and tumbled away. Another photo showed us painting our first apartment. Emma had gotten more paint on herself than the walls, creating abstract masterpieces on her old t-shirt. We'd spent that entire weekend transforming the shabby one-bedroom into our home, surviving on takeout pizza and falling asleep on a mattress on the floor. Back then, everything felt possible. I picked up my favorite, our road trip to the coast. We'd saved for months to afford that beaten-up Volkswagen. Emma had insisted on naming it Vincent van Gogh. The camera caught her mid-dance beside the car, her sundress swaying in the ocean breeze. That trip taught me everything about her free spirit, how she'd wake me at sunrise to watch the waves, drag me into the cold water fully clothed, convinced me to sleep under the stars instead of finding a motel. Each photo held another piece of our story. The Christmas we attempted to cook a turkey and nearly set off the fire alarm. The night we slow danced in the rain after that outdoor concert got rained out. The morning I proposed, both of us still in pajamas, because I couldn't wait another second to ask her to be my wife. Oh, these weren't just pictures. They were promises we'd made. Every shared smile, every adventure, every quiet moment built the foundation of what we became. Looking at them now, I could still feel the certainty I had back then, the absolute knowledge that we'd found something rare and precious. I gathered the photos carefully, like handling delicate artifacts from a time when everything made perfect sense. Each one represented a brick in the life we'd built together, a testament to the kind of love I'd always believed in. I was sorting through the photos when Emma burst through the front door, practically bouncing with energy. Her cheeks were flushed, and her usual after-work exhaustion was nowhere to be seen. She dropped her bag by the door and made a beeline for the kitchen. "You'll never believe what Lily suggested today," she called out, rummaging through the fridge. "We should join this new gym that opened downtown. It's supposed to be amazing." I set the stack of photos aside, caught off guard by her enthusiasm. In all our years together, Emma had treated exercise like a necessary evil, preferring Netflix marathons to actual marathons. She emerged from the kitchen with a glass of water, her eyes sparkling. "They have all these group classes, spin, yoga, HIIT training. Lily says the instructors are incredible." She took a long drink. "And, get this, there's a smoothie bar and a sauna." "That's different for you," I said, watching her pace the living room. "What brought this on?" "I don't know, I just feel ready for something new, you know?" She ran her fingers through her hair, still moving with that restless energy. "Lily showed me pictures of the place. It's not like those intimidating hardcore gyms. It's more of a community." Her excitement was infectious, even if it felt strange seeing her so animated about exercise of all things. It reminded me of how she used to get about new art projects back in college. The best part is, a bunch of Lily's friends go there too. She says everyone's super friendly. Emma finally settled on the arm of the couch. "What do you think?" I smiled, pushing aside my surprise at this sudden interest. "If it's something you want to try, I think you should go for it." The way her face lit up at my support made any reservations I had feel insignificant. Emma had always supported my interests, even the boring ones. She deserved the same from me. "Really? You're the best." She leaned down to kiss my cheek. "I'm going to sign up for a trial class tomorrow." After Emma joined the gym, our evening conversations shifted. Where we used to talk about our days at work or plan weekend getaways, now her stories revolved around personal records and workout routines. At first, It was refreshing to see her so passionate about something new. Then Mike entered the picture. "You wouldn't believe what Mike had me do today," Emma gushed over dinner one night. "He's got this incredible circuit training system. My arms are on fire, but in the best way possible." I nodded, pushing my food around the plate as she launched into another story about her trainer. Mike had apparently helped her perfect her form on deadlifts. Mike knew exactly how to motivate her when she wanted to give up. Mike this, Mike that. "He's such a fitness guru," she beamed. "Seriously, my motivator. You should see how he pushes everyone in class." Something in my stomach tightened at her words, a slight unease I couldn't quite place. But I pushed it aside. This was good for her, right? Having someone professional to keep her accountable. Still, I noticed how her eyes lit up whenever she mentioned his name. The late-night gym sessions became more frequent. I'd gotten used to eating dinner alone, reheating a plate for Emma when she finally made it home. One particular night, around 10 p.m., I heard her key in the lock. She burst through the door, face flushed and hair disheveled. When she came to hug me, I caught a whiff of sweat, mixed with something else, a scent I couldn't place. That's when I noticed them. Faint purplish marks along her arms, and what looked like bruising on her neck. "What happened?" I touched one of the marks gently. "These look painful." Emma pulled away quickly. "Oh, those. Just from the resistance bands. We did this crazy intense workout today." She waved her hand dismissively. "You know how I bruise easily." But something felt off. The marks didn't look like any exercise bruising I'd seen before. "Are you sure? Maybe you should take it easier." She cut me off with a quick kiss. "You're overthinking it, babe. It's nothing." Before I could press further, she disappeared into the shower, leaving me standing there with questions stuck in my throat. That night, I lay in bed, listening to Emma's steady breathing beside me. Sleep wouldn't come. The image of those bruises kept floating back into my mind, along with all the stories about Mike, the late nights, the flushed faces, the messed-up hair. My mind started connecting dots I didn't want to connect. I suggested to Emma that we try that new Italian place downtown for our Friday date night. She agreed, though she seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone throughout dinner. The restaurant buzzed with weekend energy, and I tried my best to engage her in conversation about her latest design projects. After dinner, we walked down Main Street, past the small cafe where I often grab lunch during work days. Through the window, I spotted Melissa behind the counter. She noticed us and gave a friendly wave. "Let's grab some dessert," I said to Emma, partly wanting to end our somewhat awkward evening on a sweeter note. The bell chimed as we entered. Melissa's warm smile greeted us, though something felt different about her expression when her eyes met mine. "Hey, Chris. Nice to see you outside the usual lunch rush." "Melissa, this is my wife, Emma." I gestured to Emma, who managed a polite but disinterested smile. "Oh, nice to finally meet you. Chris always gets the turkey club, never deviates. Maybe you can convince him to try something new sometime." Emma checked her phone again. I'll work on that. Hey, I need to make a quick call. I'll be right back." As Emma stepped outside, Melissa's demeanor shifted slightly. Her eyes followed Emma through the window, then returned to me with an intensity I hadn't seen before. She opened her mouth, as if to say something, then stopped herself when another customer approached the counter. We left shortly after Emma returned, with coffee and tiramisu to go. The rest of the evening passed quietly, with Emma retiring early, claiming fatigue from her afternoon workout. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hi, Chris. It's Melissa from the cafe. I got your number from your lunch orders. I know this is inappropriate, but I really need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet tomorrow?" It's urgent. I stared at the message, my stomach tightening. Melissa had always been friendly but professional during our lunch interactions. This felt different. After a few minutes of internal debate, I replied, agreeing to meet her during my lunch break the next day. As I set my phone down, I heard Emma's phone vibrate on her nightstand. She was in the shower, but I could see the screen light up with a message notification. The name Mike flashed briefly before the screen went dark again. I lay there in the darkness, listening to the shower run, wondering what Melissa could possibly need to tell me so urgently. I sat in my parked car outside the coffee shop for what felt like hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel. This wasn't my usual lunch spot. Melissa had suggested meeting at a small place across town, away from her workplace. The clock on my dashboard showed 7:15 p.m. The bell above the door chimed as I walked in. The shop was mostly empty, just a couple of students with laptops in the corner. Melissa sat in a booth at the far end, her work uniform replaced by a simple sweater and jeans. 2 untouched cups of coffee sat on the table. "I got you a coffee," she said as I slid into the seat across from her. "I remember how you take it." The familiar aroma of coffee didn't bring its usual comfort. My stomach was in knots. Melissa's fingers fidgeted with her cup, her eyes fixed somewhere on the table between us. "Thanks for meeting me," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been going back and forth about whether to tell you this." I nodded, unable to form words. The background music faded away, leaving only the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. "I go to that gym on 4th Street, Melissa continued. "The new one. I've seen Emma there." My throat went dry. I took a sip of coffee to steady myself. At first, I didn't think anything of it. But then, she paused, taking a deep breath. "I've seen her with someone. A trainer named Mike." The name hit me like a physical blow. I gripped my coffee cup tighter. "They're not just training," Melissa said, her words careful but clear. "Last week, I saw them in the parking lot. They were close, very close. And yesterday, during my morning workout, I saw them leaving together. Emma was wearing different clothes than what she worked out in." Each word felt like another crack in my world. Images flashed through my mind. Emma's late nights, the bruises, the constant phone checking, the name Mike lighting up her screen. "I know. It's not my place." Melissa's voice broke through my thoughts. "But when I saw you both at the cafe, and the way she was acting, I couldn't keep it to myself. You've always been kind to me, and this felt wrong." The coffee had gone cold in my hands. My wedding ring felt heavy on my finger. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat and tried again. "Do you know—" Melissa shook her head. "I only noticed about 3 weeks ago, but Chris—" She leaned forward slightly. "The way they act around each other, it doesn't seem new." The dim lighting of the coffee shop suddenly felt suffocating. The quiet music that had faded into background noise now seemed too loud, too cheerful for the weight of this moment. "Thank you," I managed to say, though the words felt hollow. "For telling me." Melissa reached across the table like she wanted to offer some comfort, but stopped short. "I'm so sorry, Chris." I stood up, my legs unsteady. The booth, the coffee shop, everything felt too small. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. I should go," I said, barely recognizing my own voice. My feet carried me to the door, the bell's cheerful chime a stark contrast to the heaviness in my chest. I heard Melissa call out a soft, "Take care," behind me, but I couldn't turn around. The truths she'd shared sat like lead in my stomach, and each step toward my car felt like walking through quicksand. I sit in my car, the engine off, staring at the entrance of Elite Fitness. The modern glass facade reflects the late afternoon sun, making it difficult to see inside. My hands feel clammy on the steering wheel as I check my watch. Again, Emma's session should be ending soon. I chose a spot across the street, partially hidden behind a delivery truck, close enough to see clearly, far enough not to be noticed. The familiar knot in my stomach tightens as I think about Melissa's words. Part of me still hopes she was wrong, that there's a reasonable explanation for everything. A group of people exits the gym, and I straighten up in my seat. False alarm, just some teenagers with gym bags slung over their shoulders. I slump back, wondering if I've lost my mind sitting here like some creepy stalker. But what choice do I have? The constant checking of her phone, the late nights, the way she lights up talking about Mike. It all points to something I don't want to face. Movement catches my eye. Emma emerges from the gym, her gym clothes clinging to her frame, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looks flushed, energized. Big black guy followed right behind her, his athletic build obvious even from this distance. It was Mike. He says something that makes her throw her head back, laughing, a genuine, uninhibited laugh I haven't heard from her in months. They linger by the entrance, and I grip the steering wheel tighter. Mike gestures animatedly, probably explaining some workout technique. Emma stands close to him, completely at ease, her body angled toward his in a way that speaks of familiarity. Too much familiarity. She playfully swats his arm, and he catches her hand for a moment longer than necessary. My chest tightens as I watch them interact. This isn't just a trainer-client relationship. The way they move around each other, the casual touches, the shared laughter, it's like watching two people in their own private bubble. When was the last time Emma looked that relaxed with me? A car horn blares somewhere down the street, making me jump. Mike and Emma look in that direction, and I duck down slightly, though I know they can't see me from here. When I look up again, Mike's heading back inside while Emma walks to her car, a slight spring in her step. I watch her drive away, but I don't follow. I've seen enough. The casual intimacy between them confirmed my worst fears. This wasn't just my paranoia or Melissa jumping to conclusions. Something is definitely going on between my wife and her trainer. Sitting here, watching them, made everything real in a way that Melissa's words couldn't. I need proof, real, concrete evidence. But this was the push I needed. I can't ignore this anymore, can't pretend everything's fine while my marriage crumbles around me. I've never felt more hollow than when I packed my overnight bag for a work trip that didn't exist. Each item I folded felt like another betrayal, not of Emma, but of the trust I once had in our marriage. The tiny cameras weighed heavy in my pocket, each one representing a boundary I never thought I'd cross. Setting them up made me sick to my stomach. One in the living room bookshelf, angled toward the couch. Another disguised among the kitchen decorations. The last one, the one that hurt the most to place, went in our bedroom. Our sacred space. I positioned it carefully on the dresser, hidden among photos of happier times. Emma bought my story about the emergency client meeting without question. She even helped me pack, suggesting I'd take my blue tie for good luck. The casual way she kissed me goodbye, like nothing was wrong, made everything worse. The hotel room felt like a prison cell. I sat in darkness, illuminated only by my laptop screen, watching our empty house. Hours crawled by. Every car that passed outside made me jump. I kept checking my phone, half hoping Emma would text to say she missed me. At 8:47 p.m., headlights swept across our driveway. Two figures emerged from a car I didn't recognize. Emma unlocked our front door, Mike close behind her. They moved through our house like they'd done this before. Comfortable, familiar. Into our kitchen where Mike grabbed 2 wine glasses while Emma picked out a bottle. They laughed about something I couldn't hear. My hands shook as I switched to the bedroom camera feed. They stumbled in, already wrapped around each other. Mike pulled off Emma's shirt, the one I'd bought her for her birthday last year. She giggled, a sound I hadn't heard in months. They fell onto our bed, where we'd built our life together. I slammed the laptop shut, grabbed my keys. The 40-minute drive home passed in a blur of streetlights and rage. Our front door was unlocked. Their clothes made a trail up our stairs, his gym shirt, her jeans, items dropped without care. I followed it like breadcrumbs to our bedroom door. Their muffled sounds leaked through the wood. I burst in. Emma screamed, clutching sheets to her chest. Mike jumped up, scrambling for his clothes. "Chris, you're supposed to be at my work meeting?" Funny how that worked out. My voice didn't sound like my own. Get out. Mike grabbed his pants, practically running past me. Emma sat frozen, her face pale in the dim light. "How long?" "Chris, I can explain." "Oh, Lon, 3 months." She looked away. "You've been so distant lately, we barely talk anymore. Mike actually listens to me, makes me feel alive. Don't you dare try to justify this." The rage finally broke through. "In our home? In our bed? What did you expect?" Her voice turned cold, defensive. "You're always working, always stuck in your routines. When's the last time you actually asked me what I wanted? Also, he is way bigger than you. Who wouldn't cheat?" I stared at this stranger wearing my wife's face, this person who could twist her betrayal into my fault, who could destroy everything we built together and act like I'd forced her hand. Her last sentence made whole thing so surreal that I thought it's just a nightmare. The evidence I'd needed, the proof I'd sought, it all seemed meaningless now. Nothing could have prepared me for the reality of finding them together, of hearing Emma's casual cruelty. I woke up on the couch, my neck stiff from the awkward angle. The events of yesterday played through my mind like a horror movie I couldn't pause. The cameras, the footage, Emma's cruel words, it all felt so real, yet the pain in my chest was unmistakably real. I grabbed my phone and called my lawyer, Richard, before I could second-guess myself. My voice cracked as I explained the situation, but he remained professional, walking me through the initial steps of filing for divorce. After hanging up, I dragged myself upstairs to our bedroom. Emma was still asleep, curled up on her side of the bed. The sight of her made my stomach turn. "Pack your things," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I want you out of here, today." She stirred, looking up at me with puffy eyes. "Chris, can we talk about "There's nothing to talk about. I've already called my lawyer." The word lawyer seemed to snap her into reality. She sat up, the blanket falling away from her shoulders. For a moment I saw a flash of the woman I fell in love with, vulnerable and uncertain. But then I remembered the way she'd mocked me, the way she'd blamed me for her choices. I'd left her to pack and wandered through our house. My house now. Each room held memories that felt tainted. The kitchen where we'd cook together on Sunday mornings, the living room where we'd curl up for movie night, the spare bedroom we'd talked about turning into a nursery someday. The weight of it all pressed down on my chest until I could barely breathe. 3 months. She'd thrown away 8 years of marriage for 3 months with some gym trainer. I sat down at my desk, where the photos I'd been looking at just days ago still lay scattered. Now they felt like artifacts from someone else's life. The sound of Emma's suitcase wheels on the hardwood floor echoed through the house. Our marriage was over, reduced to whatever possessions she could fit into her car. The betrayal cut deep, but beneath the pain, I felt something else, a grim certainty that I'd made the right choice. I was sitting at my desk, staring blankly at my laptop screen when the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat. Emma had already collected most of her things, so I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw him. Mike! The guy who destroyed my marriage was standing on my front porch, shifting uncomfortably from foot to foot. My first instinct was to ignore him, but something about his demeanor made me open the door. He looked different from the confident trainer I'd seen at the gym. Smaller somehow. More human. Chris, I know I'm probably the last person you want to see right now. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. You got that right. I didn't know she was married when we first met, I swear. She never wore her ring at the gym, and she told me she was single. His voice cracked slightly. When I found out... man, I should have ended it right there. I'm so sorry. My jaw clenched. I wanted to hate him, to slam the door in his face. But there was something in his eyes. Genuine remorse. Maybe even shame. I feel like such an asshole. I've been training for years and I've never crossed that line with a client before. I broke my own code. He ran his hand through his hair. Look, I know this probably means nothing, but I want to make it up to you somehow. I could train you? Free of charge? Different gym? Whatever you want? I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. The guy who slept with my wife offering me personal training sessions? But beneath the awkwardness of his offer, I sensed real sincerity. I appreciate you coming here, I heard myself say, surprising even myself. But I need time to process all this. Mike nodded, understanding. Of course, I wanted you to know I'm truly sorry. You didn't deserve any of this. 6 months flew by since the divorce was finalized. The familiar chime of the cafe's doorbell greeted me as I walked in for my usual lunch break. Melissa's warm smile from behind the counter had become a constant source of comfort during those difficult months. The usual. Her eyes crinkled at the corners as she reached for a clean mug. Over time, our brief exchanges had evolved into longer conversations. She'd stay a few minutes at my table during her breaks, and I found myself looking forward to these moments more than the coffee itself. One rainy afternoon, I noticed her shift ending as I was finishing my meal. Without thinking, I asked if she wanted to grab dinner sometime. The words surprised me as much as they seemed to surprise her. "I'd like that," she replied, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. Our first dinner was at a small Thai place around the corner. The conversation flowed naturally, different from the stilted small talk I'd grown used to at the cafe. Melissa shared stories about growing up in her small hometown, and I found myself opening up about the divorce, something I'd rarely discussed with anyone. "You know," she said, pushing her pad thai around with her fork, "I wanted to tell you about Emma long before that day at the cafe, but I wasn't sure if it was my place." Her honesty touched me. There was no ulterior motive, no hidden agenda, just genuine concern for another person's well-being. We started meeting more frequently outside the cafe. Weekend walks in the park, impromptu movie nights, or just sitting on a bench watching people pass by. Melissa never pushed or rushed things. She understood the weight I carried from my failed marriage and gave me space when I needed it. One evening, as we walked through the city after dinner, our hands brushed accidentally. Instead of pulling away, her fingers intertwined with mine. The gesture was simple but felt monumental. For the first time since discovering Emma's betrayal, I didn't feel broken. "I like this," I admitted, squeezing her hand gently. Her eyes met mine. "Me too." As weeks turned into months, I found myself sharing more of my life with Melissa. She listened without judgment when I talked about my marriage, offering perspective without trying to fix everything. Her presence in my life felt natural, like a breath of fresh air after being underwater for too long. During a quiet Sunday afternoon at her apartment, we sat on her worn couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn and watching old movies. The simplicity of the moment struck me. How comfortable it felt. How real. "Thank you," I said, during a quiet moment. "For what?" "For being there. For not giving up on me when I was at my lowest. For showing me that trust isn't always meant to be broken." She turned to face me, her expression serious but tender. "You don't need to thank me for that. You deserved better than what happened to you, Chris. I'm just glad I could be here while you figured that out for yourself." In that moment, looking at her sincere face, I realized I was falling in love again. Not the desperate, all-consuming kind I had with Emma, but something steadier, more grounded. This was built on friendship, understanding, and mutual respect. It grew naturally, without pressure or expectations. Melissa's honesty and kindness had helped me rebuild my faith in relationships. She showed me that love doesn't have to be a battlefield, that it can be as simple as sharing coffee and conversation, holding hands during walks, or just being there when needed. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed the story, remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the video for more stories like this. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. If you have any similar stories to share, leave them in the comments and we'll make sure to bring them to life. Thanks for watching.